Welcome back, everyone. We're here today, episode 2409 of the Cabral Concept. This is our first house call of the weekend. We'll be answering our community's questions in the order, of course, that they come in. So really excited. Every single Saturday, every single Sunday, I answer a dozen questions from our community. Seems to be about the right amount of time for our typical shows. Our typical shows are right around 20 minutes. It allows people for usual commute time. And it's kind of been voted on as the more popular time for the show. The show has been all over the map. It used to be like 30-minute shows. Then it was like 15-minute shows. And I just asked people, hey, what's the best amount for you? And people are like, 20, 25 minutes. I said, okay, that makes sense. And so what we try to do is we try to keep the shows to a listenable amount of time so that you can tune in on a daily basis so that you can start to get just increase the breadth of knowledge around all of the different things that I talk about in the de-stress protocol: the diet, the exercise, the stress reduction, tox removal, rest and sleep protocols, emotional balance, scientifically backed nutritional supplements, and of course, that success mindset to make any goal you have for yourself happen. So on the weekends, what I do is I answer questions from the community if you're new to the show. And what I do is I answer them in the order they come in. So I literally just opened the document. I've never seen these questions before. And they come in over the past, well, these come in every single day, but this has been from about 13 weeks ago. So I just want you to know that we're running about 12 to 13 weeks in arrears for your questions. So the important thing is if you need an immediate response, always post a health question inside of cabralsupportgroup.com. That's a free private Facebook group, about 18,000 plus members there. It grows by like 1,000 members every single month, just organically, just good people trying to help other people. And our coaches are in there. We do, I believe, weekly calls in there for Q&As. They can call in. And then if it's an order-based question, just literally email support@equa.life, EQUI.life. All right, let's get going. First question today, let's see what it says. Ashley says, hello, my 7-year-old son has very enlarged tonsils. He does have allergies and currently takes montelukast. Manukalast. I forget how to pronounce that, but I know exactly what it is. Basically, it helps reduce leukotrienes, which is a specific type of allergen. I know that because I have high leukotrienes by genetics, but I keep them under control with gut health and food, etc. Okay, so back to Ashley's question. I remember you talking about your daughter having enlarged tonsils, and you did a protocol to help reduce them. He doesn't snore every night, but sometimes he does. I don't want to have his removed and was hoping you could share what you did for your daughter and I could possibly try it with him. Thank you. Appreciate your help. Okay. So Ashley, absolutely. I have to be really careful with this because as I have to give the disclaimer, I can't give you any medical advice, medical cures, medical diagnosis, or medical treatment plans. And swollen tonsils or enlarged tonsils is a medical-based condition. So I can only tell you what I did for my daughter. So one of the issues with, it becomes an issue. We'll put it this way. Right? It becomes an issue if you start cutting things out of your body, and that includes tonsils, without a doubt. So if you look at my soft palate, which I'm not going to open my mouth and say right now for you, when they remove my tonsils, you've got a massive amount of scar tissue that pulls down on the right side. Plus, your tonsils are a node which cleans mucus and all sorts of different toxins out of the body. And that's really, really important. You have to understand that. They're not extra pieces. So all of the lymphatic fluid, which by the way is more than double the amount of blood you have in your body, technically it's 4x, it flows through all the different nodes in your body. You've got them in your neck, you've got them in your clavicle, you have them in your armpits, in your groin, behind your knees, and so on and so forth. And all the fluid basically stops off in these nodes to essentially be cleaned by white blood cells. Well, your tonsils are essentially the first stop with your adenoids and tonsils for ear, nose, and throat problems. Your tonsils are a gateway to telling you, is the body trying to clear something? That should be it. So it's food-based a lot of the times, but also, like my oldest daughter got a infection. These things happen, right? Like a bacterial infection at school or viral-based infection, and her nose got swollen, and they weren't going back down on their own. And I said, well, for me, just me, not giving this as medical advice, I was not going to have them removed in any way, shape, or form. Now, of course, if it was leading to an actual medical-based condition with her, of course I would have them removed because I would do anything for my daughters. So I said I'm committed to this. If you listen to the Monday show, right? Committed to whatever the goal was. The goal was to be able to get her to breathe through her nose at night sleeping, so that would help the formation of her jaw and her soft palate, her nasal passages, etc. And I had to be able to then shrink her tonsils in order to do that. Well, what I did was I looked at all the different things that would be able to help. And I was committed to it, and so was she, and we did it twice a day. So I'm hoping to actually formulate this, because there is no one thing, okay? So there's no one formula that I've seen, but I'm gonna give you exactly what I did. So I mixed, and again, I hope to be able to formulate this. It's just we have to dedicate a certain amount of resources in order to do that, but this is what I did. I used echinacea, thyme, elderberry, vitamin C, and oregano, all of these oils, and they're children's base elixirs. So one of them that I've recommended before is Sambucol, a liquid vitamin C, and a product called Natronex. So what I would do is I mixed all of those together, 1 teaspoon each. I don't know, your daughter's 7? Okay, so my daughter was 7 at the time as well, 6 or 7. And she gargled every morning after breakfast and every night after dinner. I brought it right to the dinner table. And my goal was to see how many seconds I could count. We turned it into a game. Her goal was to do at least 30 seconds. And in the beginning, she could only do 5 or 6 seconds. Why did I want her to gargle? To basically paint those tonsils, but get that all over it. And then ideally not drink water after it, only if she had to, okay? So that's what I did. And then during the day, I would do sprays as well. I would use a colloidal silver spray, and then oftentimes I would use a propolis-based spray. We did that. It didn't come easy. It took 2 months. Tonsils shrank all the way down. I took photos along the way to keep her motivated. I said, hey, great job. You know, your tonsils are shrinking. And she would get excited. She's 6, 7 years old. She wanted to do the right thing, yes. And she wanted to obviously please me. And that's what we did. And I was proud of her. She did it. She stuck with it. And now she knows more about her health as well. So anyway, that was a long answer, but I want to be able to then share this obviously with everybody as well. All right. So thank you, Ashley, for writing in. And so there you have it. All right. Patty's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Wishing you well. I've listened to all your podcasts referencing breast cancer and many on cancer. I've had breast cancer twice in the same breast. I completed approximately 18 gene tests, and none of them were found. I don't eat red meat, dairy, or saturated fats, and stopped eating eggs, which I did eat often. I do eat pasture-raised organic chicken and turkey and wild-caught sockeye salmon. Is there any research that they can contribute to an increase in cancer? Thank you, as always. All right. So, I mean, you're doing a great job. I love that you're sticking with the natural-based approach. You're kind of figuring out, hey, what could be linked to this? So there's definitely a link to anything that promotes an anabolic environment in the body. And that's a larger amount of protein. I'm not saying any of the meats and fish that you're eating are bad. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that there are studies showing that if you consume more than 10% of your diet, it can lead to more cancer. Now, not that much, right? Not as massive a percentage. When you go above 19% of your diet in protein, it can lead to a much greater chance of cancer. I have a podcast on that called The Mounting Evidence Against Meat. It's not just meat, it's all forms of protein, even plant-based protein. But to cut to the chase, the more anabolic the protein, meaning the more meat-based it was, the greater the potential. Is it going to happen to everybody? No, it's not. Again, but I'm just sharing with you very valid research. Okay, so there's that part. But there's also the part of environmental-based toxins. I mean, do you know if you are exposed to glyphosate? Do you have glyphosate in your body? You might want to do an environmental toxicity test. You can go to equa.life/labs or stephencabral.com/labs, and you can find those there. You can test for heavy metals. Do you have higher levels of stress? So these are all things that I would search out beyond just foods. You're doing a great job. Do your 15, your 7, 14, or 21-day functional medicine detox each quarter. Again, I can't give you cancer-based advice, but that's where I would start for sure. And I think you're on the right path. Jennifer's up next. Hello, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for taking the time to try to help me. I'm a huge fan and avid listener. Thanks, Jennifer. It says, my naturopath ran blood work on my first visit with her and discovered I was higher in iron. And again, I can't go through blood work on this podcast. I just want you to know that. I can't go through lab testing in general. This podcast is not to read lab work. What it is meant to do is give you a second opinion, another place to look, all right? But I'm going to read your question. I just can't go through all your lab work. She did not check ferritin at the time, but everything else she tested looked in normal range. She had me take alpha-lipoic acid for a month and retested me 4 months later. I got the virus 2 months before the retest. At the retest, she tested ferritin. This time, my total iron binding capacity and others were in the low range, respectively. My iron went down, and my iron saturation went down to 53. My ferritin was at 247. My naturopath wanted me to take alpha-lipoic again to lower the ferritin, but I wonder about that as my iron is fine now and my TIBC, UIBC are low. She wants to retest if my ferritin is high. Start having me get my blood drawn. I personally wonder if the high ferritin is due to inflammation from the virus or if there's another missing piece. I'm hoping you can steer me in the right direction of what to test for and any other ideas. Okay, yeah, it's a great question, really great question. And I'm not saying what your naturopath did was wrong, but they didn't test ferritin the first time, so they couldn't actually give you a good indicator of where the iron was ending up, right? So it's basically like, okay, total iron binding capacity, right? That's what a lot of doctors will run, and they'll run iron saturation. Okay, so the alpha-lipoic acid is not a bad thought process because it has been shown in vivo studies that it may remove or lower free iron in the bloodstream. But I don't know that it's going to have as great of an effect on ferritin. I'd have to look more into that research. But the question is basically my same question that you had. I don't know how old you are, but 247 is at the high end of the range, but it's not necessarily out of range if you are a woman, let's say, let's just say that you're menopausal or postmenopausal. Again, I don't know how old you are, but it's at the higher end of that range. It might be 1.5 the range of a woman during her menstrual-based years. So there's that piece to it. And then there's also the fact that, yeah, you might be having higher levels of inflammation. And then there's the fact that we don't know what caused it. Were you ever high iron before in the past? Like, is this something that's common for you? We want to look at that. What foods were you eating? What nutritional supplements were you taking? I'd want to know a lot more. You have to understand is that when I work with someone with their blood work, I spend an hour before I'm even on the phone with them to just sit down with all of their labs and as far back as I can get them. And I'm not looking at just one lab. I would never make my decisions off of one lab. I really wouldn't. I'd be looking at heavy metals. I'd be looking at your total blood count. I mean, because again, your ferritin at 247, it's an issue if there is an issue with your like red blood cells, hematocrit, those types of things. But again, I don't have any of that data in front of me. So what I'm trying to say is I need more data. I don't know what's causing it. If you're in menopause, it's just on the higher end range of normal. It might be totally fine to give more blood. It's probably not an issue. I've kind of talked about that, what that does when you give blood. And I would definitely look at other areas rather than just doing what I call the single bullet approach of using this nutritional supplement for this particular thing. Again, I don't think your naturopath is wrong by any stretch of the imagination. I just want to look at this a lot more holistically. All right, so hopefully that helps. Next up is Anouk. Anouk says, hi there. I've been listening to your podcast, which has been very eye-opening. I have a few questions concerning my PCOS. On basically a year ago, 6/18/21, I had a panel done. And again, I can't go through your labs, but you ran your follicular stimulating hormone. You ran your progesterone, free testosterone, DHEA, estradiol, free T4 for thyroid, luteinizing hormone, TPO antibodies, thyroid stimulating hormone, and cortisol. And you said they were all in normal range. Great. So you started taking a bunch of supplements. And those supplements were myo-inositol, you take NAC, curcumin, quercetin, omega-3s, and a probiotic. At what point can you stop the supplements? I'm a 27-year-old female. I exercise almost daily. I'm 5'8". I weigh 125 pounds. My periods have gone from 67 days to 35 days. Cycle lasts around 3 days. My skin's cleared up. No longer experience panic attacks. My periods are still extremely painful. I'm hoping not to be dependent on these, but definitely don't want to risk having my previous symptoms come back. Would like to know your insights. Totally understand. And you know what? You're doing phenomenal. So I mean, like, first off, congratulations, because you're obviously doing this either, I don't know, on your own or just, through the knowledge that you've accumulated. But You're doing great. So that's that. You're not there yet. So what I would say is be careful coming off of these nutritional supplements. This is not a plan we would have given you. So you're either working with a different practitioner or you're looking at this on your own. I'm totally not against them at all. I would just be doing this even more holistically. Again, you're doing a phenomenal job. So do not let me tell you otherwise. But I would just be doing this again to a more holistic viewpoint. I would want to look at what caused the PCOS in the first place. So I have a bunch of shows on PCOS. So what I want you to do first is go to stephencabral.com/podcast, and in the search box, type in PCOS. So I have a lot of single podcasts on PCOS. I literally go through all of the different reasons why PCO exists in the first place. You're running your labs, which is great, but you want to see which way and why you trend towards, because then as you're weaning off the supplements, you wouldn't wean off those right away. So if you're someone that leans more towards higher testosterone, okay, well then I'm going to be using something to help with that higher testosterone. If you're someone that leans towards higher cortisol, I'm going to be using something like Adrenal Soothe and some full spectrum magnesium. If you're someone that leans more towards dysregulated insulin and blood sugar, I'm going to be using a inositol-based product. So hopefully that's helpful. That's how I would do it. And then I would wean off just a product at a time and say, hey, are you sliding back, yes or no? And then if not, good, then come off that product all the way or then move on to the next one. So I have a lot of podcasts on how to wean off those supplements as well. And you can ask for those for sure too at cabralsupportgroup.com. All right, let's get in one more question for the day. It is from Pat. Pat says, I take an estrogen hormone blocker and it's called tamoxifen. How should I go about to lose weight? All I do is gain, and I watch my carbs and eat very clean and exercise. Is there anything I can do? Yeah, absolutely, Pat. Thanks for writing in. Appreciate it. All right. So, again, during the initial consult, you ask so many questions, and you should go through the person's symptoms from worst to least. You then ask too, okay, what medications or different things have you tried? So I want to know why you're taking an estrogen hormone blocker. Again, I have no idea the reason why you're taking it. From this, no idea. So what I can say is this, but I still want to help. So here's what I would do. We need to know, and I have lots of podcasts on weight loss, what's holding you back? And let me just give you a couple examples. Is it low thyroid? Is it high cortisol? Is it high blood sugar? Is it poor sleep? Is it food and gut-based issues causing inflammation, leading to immune imbalances, which is just then a vicious cycle of inflammation, water retention, weight gain, etc.? Is it too much processed food? Is it food sensitivity? There can be a lot of different things. Higher levels of omega-6s to omega-3s causing a lot more inflammation, thereby causing a lot more water retention. So the number one thing you could do is run something called the Big Five. So stephencabral.com/Big Five. You don't even have to purchase them from us. I'm totally fine with that, of course. You can run it with your local naturopathic doctor, like you heard a bunch of people on the show doing. You could also do it with an integrative health practitioner level 2. You can find those integrative health practitioners at integrativehealthpractitioner.org. Look for a level 2. They'll be able to get labs for you. Okay, what else can I share with you? If you didn't want to run any labs, you could first start with, again, I can't give you medical advice, but I would start with a 21-day functional medicine detox. That's at stephencabral.com/detox. It's the same cost of food or less, which is why I feel totally comfortable recommending it to people. It's also guaranteed to work. And then after that, I would have a flex meal, anything you want to eat on day 22 after the 21-day functional medicine detox. And then I would immediately go into the fat-losity-based weight loss system we have. That's not just product. It actually comes with an entire system and recommendations for lifestyle as well. So that's at stephencabral.com/fatlocity. That's FATLOSSITY. So first, stephencabral.com/detox, then Fatlocity. Again, you don't even have to run the program through us if you don't want. You can do whatever you want that feels right for you. But if you were coming into my practice, I would say, okay, Big Five. If you can't do the Big Five, okay, I want to do then the starter kit plus the stress, mood, and metabolism test. That's kind of like, hey, that's my basis. We need to figure out what's going on. Okay. And then after that, if you can't do those labs, because if you do those labs, you get a personalized plan. So that's easy, right? It's straightforward. You're going to get the exact plan you need. Now, if you can't run those labs, then you're going to do the protocols I just recommended, the functional medicine detox, and then the fat velocity plan. All right. So hopefully that's helpful. And again, thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate your support of the show. I'll be back tomorrow answering 6 more of our community's questions. Take care.